Hi, welcome to Election 2020, a What Ifs workshop. I'm Rachel Oswald, foreign policy reporter for CQ Roll Call and chair of the professional development team of the National Press Club Journalism Institute. Thank you all for making the time to be here today. We're looking forward to a great program opened by U.S. Federal Election Commissioner Ellen Weintraub, who will be followed by breakout sessions with experts on voter suppression, election interference, mail-in ballots, and contested results. Let's start with Commissioner Weintraub, who has served as a commissioner on the FEC since 2002 and has chaired the body 3 times, most recently in 2019. During her time on the commission, she has been a consistent and outspoken advocate for the fair regulation of money's role in our election system. The commissioner will give us an overview of the biggest threats she sees facing Americans' ability to vote safely and to have their votes count in November's elections. You can pose questions anytime in the Q&A queue, and we'll have time for 1 or 2 at the end of her remarks. Thank you for being with us, and now Commissioner Weintraub.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with such esteemed company. I was asked to speak about what the biggest threats to the election are, and my first thought was how much time we got, because there is a lot going on this year. This is, for many, many reasons, an incredibly challenging year. We're dealing with a public health crisis, an economic crisis, a social justice crisis, and all of them are potentially could create a democracy crisis. We are, you all are going to be, have access to breakout sessions on some of the most important issues of the day: voter suppression, mail-in ballots, election interference, contested election results. All of these are exceedingly important issues, as are the role of disinformation, misinformation, information silos, litigation. We're 9 weeks out from the election, and there are about 200 lawsuits that have been filed around the country, some seeking to expand the opportunities to vote, some seeking apparently to contract them. Money. I'm a money and politics person, so I always worry about money. Where's the money coming from? We still have in the background the role of mega donors, dark money, possibly from illicit or foreign sources. And then there is the money that is not there. Congress has appropriated approximately $400 million out of the $4 billion that the Brennan Center earlier this year estimated would be required by all the states and localities to run this election. The states and localities are really under the gun. They are, many of them, under balanced budget restrictions. They can't just borrow money in order to run this election. Their tax base is shrinking due to the economic crisis that's out there. And experts from all fields, civil rights people, national security people, the state and localities themselves, bipartisan groups of high-level former office holders have begged Congress to send more money to the states, and Congress has not done this. They have really failed our democracy in not providing these really necessary funds to the states and localities. And I really worry about the impact of this, because with that lack of resources could come a lack of capacity, and with overstressed, under-resourced election administrators working hard, a lot of dedicated people out there trying to do their best, but we're going to see mistakes, and we're going to see a lack of capacity, and I worry a lot about just totally innocent, inadvertent, bad things happening that are going to have ramifications for the results of this election. It is just going to be extremely challenging for these states and localities to run both an incredibly ramped up mail-in voting operation, which many states have risen to the moment and expanded opportunities for mail-in voting, just in order to make sure that people don't feel that they have to jeopardize their health or those of their loved ones in order to vote. It's so important, but it's expensive. And at the same time, they are going to have more expensive in-person voting, because there are a lot of people who won't feel comfortable putting their ballots in the mail, and they are going to want to vote in person, and we don't want to see 7-hour lines in some of these voting stations. It's really unfathomable to me that Congress has not stepped up and met this challenge to our democracy. There are obviously many, many needs around the country, but our democracy is in trouble, I think, and really desperately needs these resources. What we've seen are private industry trying to help out. Facebook just said they were going to, or the Zuckerbergs just said they were going to donate another $300 million on top of the $400 million that Congress has appropriated. We've seen NBA teams donating their arenas. We've seen private businesses offering paid day off to vote, as well as, in at least one instance that I'm aware of, paying people to go and be poll workers. We're having a huge poll worker shortage. This is another resource problem for the election, which could, again, lead to really long lines. And when we start soliciting private industry to come and help us run our democracy, what's next? Are we going to start a GoFundMe page for the election? This is really unconscionable. And I would be remiss, by the way, if I did not mention that in the last 12 months, there's been less than 1 month in which the Federal Election Commission, on which I serve, has had a working quorum capable of enforcing the Federal Election Campaign Act or providing guidance just in case anybody's got any questions about new situations that are arising. We have been sidelined as an agency, and I think that is another part of another one of the many challenges that we are confronting here. And I haven't even gotten into some of the more extreme possibilities that people have thrown out, the possibility of sabotage of the power grid, state legislators defying their voters, an electoral college tie, or my personal favorite, an asteroid that is going to be alarmingly close to the Earth the day before the election. I think the astronomers have said that it's going to be far enough away that we don't have to worry about the asteroid. But the things that really keep me up at night, honestly, are the big picture issues. I worry about our democracy. I worry that we are jeopardizing the American people's faith in our democratic process, in our entire system of governance. This is a faith and a system of trust that has been built up over hundreds of years, and I fear that we're about to blow it. And if we destroy faith in our institutions, if we destroy faith in our very democracy, in our very system of how we choose our leaders and our government, that trust is going to be exceedingly difficult to build back up again. The other big issue that I worry about is what happens on election night. And this is where you all, as members of the media, really have an incredibly important role to play. The nation has never more needed its independent, resilient media to play a strong role, to hold people accountable, to hold candidates accountable, and to create reasonable expectations for what's going to happen and when we're going to know the results. In a sense, the media, I know you guys like to think of yourselves as observers, but you actually are going to be part of the drama here this year. If the media does not let people know that we may not know the results on election night, which is an issue I've been concerned about for months, and that is not a symbol of fraud. That is not a symbol of anything nefarious going on. All of these mail-in ballots have to be counted. We have created a system where, as I said, the state and local officials are allowing many, many more people to vote by mail. Those ballots have to be counted. Every eligible citizen needs to have a safe and accessible way of voting, and their votes need to count. There are swing states where they're not even allowed to start processing those mail-in ballots until Election Day. They are not going to be done on election night. And if the media is not responsible about restraining themselves and not trying to call the election and be the first one to call the election, I appeal to you all on this. You really have such an important role to play in making sure that people understand what to expect and what is likely to happen. There's a great quote about journalism that I picked up on the internet from a writer named Sally Clare, who said that she had a teacher who taught her a great journalism 101 lesson. If someone says it's raining and another person says it's dry, it is not your job to quote them both. Your job is to look out the window and find out which is true. Facts matter, truth matters, facts are not partisan. And the media, again, needs to play a strong role in holding people to account when they are not truthful. I'm not talking about, standard puffery that all politicians engage in, but if there is disinformation out there from foreign or domestic sources, we rely on the media to do fact checks and to create a system where, at the end of the day, people will trust the results. People will understand that we need the time to count the votes, and once we count the votes, we will know the results, and there is no way to, there is no reason to think that there is something wrong going on when we take the time to allow our election administrators to do their jobs and count every vote. I'll stop there, and I've been told that there's time for maybe a couple of questions.
Great. Thank you for those remarks, Commissioner Weintraub. A question that comes to me as I listened to you was thinking about the role of state legislatures, particularly in battleground states, and the position they'll be in if, for example, President Trump, on the basis of in-person voting on election day that shows him with a lead, he declares himself the winner, and then there's a question about will other local Republicans follow suit and side with him? And what is the role of the press in kind of alerting voters to that potential and like preparing the way, so to speak, that this could be something that might happen?
Well, as I said, I think the role of the press is in creating reasonable expectations for when we're going to know the results and in not calling it too early. Don't call the state based on 2% reporting. Or if we know that there are millions of ballots that are outstanding because they came in the mail and they haven't been processed yet, it is just premature to say who won that race. We just won't know.
Thank you. I have one question that came in from Bob. Common question. People have mailed in, they requested their absentee ballot, but they don't know when they should expect to receive that ballot, and whether there'll be enough time for them to send their ballot back and have it arrive in time to be counted. The president is saying recently that people should check the system by trying to vote both in person and by mail. How can people be sure that their vote will be counted while not committing fraud, as the president seemed to be suggesting?
Yeah, don't vote twice. That's illegal. That's a crime. People can go to jail for that. So nobody should vote twice. Let's be really, really clear about that. In terms of making sure that your vote counts, I think that the strongest step that any citizen can take is to make sure that they vote early. Whether you're voting in person or whether you're voting by mail, vote early. Request your ballot at the soonest possible opportunity and get it back as soon as possible. There are many jurisdictions that have secure drop boxes that are either at the election boards themselves, or sometimes they're in places around the community. Get reliable information straight from the source, from your local election board. Find out exactly where these drop boxes are, or whether they exist, or what the deadlines are, and do it all early. I personally am planning on dropping my ballot off. I don't feel comfortable voting in person. I'm voting absentee. I'm gonna get my ballot in the mail, but then I'm gonna bring it in and make sure that it gets there on time.
Well, I think that wraps us up for time for questions. Thank you, Commissioner Weintraub, for those thoughtful remarks and insights. Now I'll turn the program over to Julie Muse, Executive Director of the Journalism Institute, who will walk us through next steps for the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Commissioner Weintraub. And thank you all again for being here. In just a moment, we're going to head to the breakout rooms to hear from the other experts we have with us and brainstorm based on their talk. So we're going to put a link in the chat in just a moment for the breakout rooms. Please copy it, since it'll disappear as soon as we close this room. If for some reason you're unable to copy it, don't panic. We're also going to email it to you in just a moment. And then once everyone is in the the rooms. We're going to go ahead and introduce our experts and move to that part of the program. So I just shared in the chat with you the link that we're going to go to now for the breakout room. So please go ahead and start moving over there. And again, check your email if you aren't able to copy and paste the link from here. And we'll see you all there in about 30 seconds.